Welcome, everybody, and welcome to Diversity Wine's webinar on getting press that brings new customers. I'm Jeri Yoshida. I'm head of B2B at Diversity Wines. I'm also a former journalist with 20 plus years of PR experience. So we've got a lot to cover and we don't have a huge amount of time. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So let me just get off the screen here and get you on a full screen of my slides. So, okay, as I said, I have been a reporter and a journalist, and I have over 20 years of experience in PR, getting brands top tier press. Now, today, I'm going to show you how you can finally shift from not knowing how to get your name in the press, and that's whether you've been struggling or whether you've just about given up, to mastering your PR activities so you can grow your customer base and your bottle sold without paying an expensive PR firm. And without having to be burdened with posting even more on social media. So, and because you're here live, you are going to get a special bonus. So stay until the end. I am going to make my slide deck available to you. So I'm going to send you a link where you can download my slides. There are quite a few of them. So if you just stay to the end, you can make sure that you don't have to spend your time taking screenshots of everything. You can just pay attention and take notes, and I will send it to you when we are done. So a little bit about me. When I was in my 20s, I had quite a few careers. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in communication. I've been a journalist, including as on staff at Entrepreneur Magazine, and I transitioned into PR several decades ago. I've worked for an agency. I've had my own firm. And during that time in my career, I've also parlayed my knowledge and skills into owning a conference for women executives, and I produce conferences. But my whole career has been centered on PR. And what that means is positioning people, positioning companies, and getting them visible so that they can get more business, increase revenue, get more customers, gain better partners, acquire buyers, and go public, and things like that. So, and when I started, I have to tell you, I did not know anything about PR. Plus, I was a woman of color in a very closed industry made up of mainly middle-aged Caucasian men. So I know what it's like and especially as a representative of Diversity Wines, I know what it's like to be up against a group of people that seem to have a bit of a foothold on the industry. So it took me a while, but I learned from others who were great at what they did. And I also figured out a lot of things on my own. And as a result, in the last 20 plus years in PR, I've gotten my clients in the likes of the New York Times, Bloomberg, MarketWatch, CNBC, the Wall Street Journal, and as well as numerous other trade publications. So once I started gaining traction, and especially getting, I mean, when I got a client on the front page of the New York Times, I realized something. I wasn't born with connections. I did not, automatically know the right way to pitch someone, but I learned all it takes is dedication and focus, continuous action to get the press that attracts your ideal customers. So before we start, I have a lot to teach you and we don't have a ton of time. So if you will, please turn off all of your distractions. If you could put your phones on silent, I promise I will make this worth every minute of your time if you just stay focused and stay with me. So let's get to why you're here. So some of you, maybe, have you tried pitching journalists and heard nothing back? Well, if you have, I'm going to cover the big mistakes that wine pros make when they're pitching the press. Do you see other wine brands getting press and wonder why it's not your brand? Well, the truth is, it's not because their wine or winery is better. It's because they have a story that journalists want. Now, also, if I hit on a question that really strikes you, go ahead and put it in the comments if you'd like. Let's, get some activity going in there with your fellow attendees. Okay, third question. Are you tired of hoping somebody discovers you instead of making it happen? Well, I'm going to teach you how to create an action plan that proactively puts you in front of reporters. Question number 4. Do you want PR? Oh, this is a big one. I've been in PR for a long time. This is a big one. Do you want PR but can't afford the 5 to 10 grand a month that it costs for a PR firm? Well, if you do, good for you. And I'm glad you're here because I am going to show you how to do the exact same things that those expensive PR firms do to get press for their clients. Fifth question. Do you wish you had solid trusted guidance to follow so you can stop guessing and start getting coverage? Good, because that is exactly what I'm giving you. Just as you're experts in wine, I am an expert in getting press coverage. I'm going to teach you what I know as much as I can in the time frame that we have. Now let's talk about you. So maybe you showed up here because you're curious. You see other people and wineries in the press and you're wondering if you can do the same thing. Or maybe you're motivated. Maybe you know that there's a way to get press and you're motivated to get started. Or maybe you're frustrated but determined. Maybe you've tried pitching the press and gotten nowhere. And now you are determined to crack this code. Well, whatever it is, whatever your motivation, I fully support you. So just know, this is the truth. You're just one proven system away from consistent press coverage that can transform your business. So, all right, let me tell you what we're going to cover. So we're going to start with 3 story angles that get wineries press. Then we're going to move on to identify the journalists, how to identify journalists that will respond to you, how to craft a pitch that gets them to say yes. We're going to find out about how to do a simple PR calendar that you can follow in just a couple hours a week. Then later on, if you want to know how to work with me, I can share how we can do that. And then we're going to end with live Q&A. So as I'm going through these ideas and these concepts, make sure to write down your questions because we're going to go pretty fast. We've got a lot of material. Make sure to write down your questions and I will answer all of them at the end of this during the live Q&A. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so let's start with the only 3 story angles small wineries need to get consistent press coverage. So why do most winery pitches fail? Why do you think that is? It's because most wineries pitch, here is why our wine is great. And I get that. I get it. You're proud of your wine. You think it's great. It is great. But here's the thing. That is not necessarily what journalists want. What journalists really want are human stories with news value. They don't need to know why your wine is great. So, angle number 1, what you want to give them is a founder's story with a hook. All right. Your founder story has an unusual element. It probably has more than one. Now, I want to emphasize here that this does not mean that you have to have the most original story ever. That is something that a lot of wine pros and wine founders start getting a little confused about. They start thinking that they have to have the most original story and nobody's ever heard about this before. That's not the case. This is just about matching your unique story elements to the audience's interests. So here are some examples. So here are some stories that have appeared in the press. Obviously, ancient Korean rice wine is making waves and meet the family behind this revival. And then I wanted you to look at this second one. So this Indiana to Sonoma County in particular. This is what I mean when I'm saying that you don't have to have a super, super unique hook. From Indiana to Sonoma County is not that unique. It's not like nobody's ever moved from the Midwest to the West Coast before. But that is the unique angle that this winemaker is using. So when you think about your founder story, just think about what is unique to you. It doesn't have to be the most original story in the world. a former tech exec turned winemaker. This is just going to be the story that you talk about. Maybe you have an immigrant story. Maybe you did a career pivot from something into wine. Maybe you are somebody with a family legacy, but there is some sort of a modern twist to it. So, all right, just think about that. What is it that makes your story unique? And again, I put that unique in quotes. So the second angle is to connect your winery to what journalists are already writing about. Okay, so this is when you've got to take a look and see what is being covered. And that if you have an angle that is being covered, that is something that you want to dig into a bit. So some topics are sustainability and regenerative farming, the natural wine movement, again, diversity in ownership of wine companies, wine brands, and breaking barriers. And then there's also something about reviving the local economy and creating jobs. A lot of local publications do like to cover those angles. So here are just some examples of some stories that were covered, that were written about. So if you look at this In Conversation with Mike Lang, the topic of that is on sustainability. So just you want to look at what journalists are already writing about. So the key here is that you're not creating a trend. We don't want to go in with such a unique idea that that a journalist is going to have to be sold on the idea. What you want to do is position your winery as part of an existing conversation, because that is how journalists think. They'll think, wow, everybody's talking about sustainability. Everybody's talking about the non-alcoholic wine movement. Everybody's talking about Gen Z. Everybody's talking about. So what you want to do is look at something that is already being written about and give it the winery twist, or the wine industry, the wine brand twist that comes from your unique perspective. And the third angle is that you solve a problem, fill a gap, or represent an underserved community. So now what you want to do is you want to share your community or your cultural impact. So here are some examples of this. So on the diversity angle, on how these wine professionals are making an impact in diversity, here are some examples of those articles. And again, if you're a woman-owned winemaker or a BIPOC, or if you're, it doesn't even have to be about you personally. If you're reviving a forgotten wine region, or creating opportunities in areas that were previously struggling, this is a really great angle that reporters are looking for. Now, you want to remember, this is important. This isn't just about wine journalism. This is about lifestyle, business, and local news. Because what we want to do is we want to start reaching people who don't already know about wine. We all obviously, that's something that that's being talked about, and I'm sure that you know, because you're reading those publications, that there are people who are interested in wine already. But we definitely want to widen that net that you're casting and start targeting people who don't already know about wine. Okay, step 2. We want to identify journalists who will respond to you. Okay, and craft a pitch that gets a yes. So the mistake that wine pros make is targeting only wine publications. So what we want to do is expand that again into lifestyle, travel, business, and local news. There's also, the list goes on. These are just 4 examples of segments that you can start to get press in that have nothing to do directly with wine. Why? Because it's a bigger, easier target. You don't want to have to fight through the glut of wine brands that are trying to get coverage from one reporter who only writes about wine. What you want to do is start expanding into an easier, a bigger market where the competition is not going to be as stiff. So this means you're going to start reaching people who are not already wine experts and connoisseurs. So, how do you do that? You've got to find your target journalists. I use a 4-step process for finding the journalists who will respond to your pitches. Okay. The first step is to find the journalists that are already covering wineries like yours. Okay. So again, look beyond wine. So you want to start searching archives. So whether you do a Google search and go in the news function, start looking for, smaller, you can do boutique wineries, you can do regional, you can do something that's in the area that you're in. If you're, of a certain ethnicity, if you want to, you new to the wine industry, you can just start looking in all of the things that make you unique and start doing searches for stories that have covered the types of angles that you are going in at. Also, we want to look beyond publications. So not just wine publications. Obviously, we've all heard of the wine publications in the industry, but you can look for beat reporters in local, regional, and national and international publications. So that means people who cover food, journalists who also cover wine or cover business in a certain area or cover travel or lifestyle. Now, the second step, once you find those journalists, you want to spend some time reviewing their work. So I like to go back about 3 months when you don't want to go too far back. So for example, if you start looking back into deep archives like 2 years or 5 years, or reporters can change beats. So maybe they covered smaller wineries 5 years ago, but now they're only covering spirits, or maybe they're covering a certain region in Italy or that sort of thing. So you want to look at their relatively recent work. And when you're doing this, you want to look for the patterns. So if you notice that they're covering a certain topic lately, and that topic is something that you can speak to, now is the time to start to pitch them. This is another thing that a lot of people don't really think about. So once you find those reporters, follow them, start following them and their work. So what does that mean? You want to follow them on social media. You can set up Google alerts to follow them, their actual stories. But why do you want to do that? You want to stay up to date on their interests. You've got to understand what they care about beyond their published work. I'm going to use an example that is outside the wine industry. I know a journalist who writes for Reuters, and she writes about business and a lot of technology, a lot of AI, but I happen to know because I follow her on LinkedIn and I also follow her on Instagram. She loves dogs, and she also has a lot of interest in equality issues, and in particular, women's equality. So if I was going to get her attention, I might comment on her Instagram about her dog, because I love dogs too. I mean, you don't want to be fake about it. But, so we've kind of gotten to know each other. And also, if I was going to pitch a story, I knew that it had a woman-centric angle, I might pitch it in that direction, knowing that that might be something that perks her ears up. And also, if she wasn't interested in it at that point, if she feels favorable toward it, she might be able to point you in the direction of a reporter who might be interested in that. So you do want to know about them as people as well. So again, once you get them and you start following, you want to put together your media list. Now, what we're looking for is we're going to be looking to target certain reporters and journalists fairly frequently. So what we want to do is, let's say, start with about a dozen, like 10 to 15 journalists. We don't need 100, but you should probably have more than 2. And what you want to look at is quality over quantity. You really want people who are already covering the topics that you fit into perfectly. If you look at a journalist and you say, okay, this person should be writing about me. Like, I really feel like this person should be covering my wine brand. That person needs to be on your list. So when you do this, this should only take you about an hour to 2 hours. But you need to do it on an ongoing basis. But this is where it all starts. This is definitely a fundamental step here. Is you've got to find out who is covering the topics that you are able to speak to. So the second part of this is the third thing that we're going to cover today, which is how to craft a pitch that gets a yes. Okay, so there are a lot of different types of pitches, but to start, all you need is just this one basic pitch. But what I will warn is that you really want to keep it simple. Okay, a lot of wine brands, a lot of founders, they can overcomplicate, not just wine, not just people can overcomplicate things. So what you want to do, I like to use this basic format. Now you can tweak it a little bit, but this is a good, I am, and then your name, founder of, and your winery name or the feature of your winery, and I or we, and then you talk about the hook. Would you be interested in a story about, and that's where you pitch them the angle. Now, I'm going to give you some examples so that you can see this in action. Hi, I'm Cassie Lopez, founder of a woman-owned natural wine brand in Sonoma. I left a 20-year corporate career to make wine. Would you be interested in a story about professional women pivoting to agriculture? Now, I'm going to go back, and when you see, like when I say I left a 20-year corporate career to make wine, so that's where we say that hook that connects what you covered. That is your hook. So Cassie Lopez's hook is leaving a 20-year corporate career to make wine. Again, it does not have to be the most unique hook in the world. You don't have to have been abducted by aliens, or, you don't have to have been raised by wolves or anything like that. You can simply have left a corporate career. You could be an immigrant. You could be, a first generation native English speaker, whatever it is, that is your interesting hook. And again, the pitch, the story about professional women pivoting into agriculture, that is the story, the specific angle that would fit the beat of the reporter that you're talking about. Here's another example. Hi, I'm James Chen, one of only 12 Asian American winery owners in Napa, and I'm proving you don't need generational wealth to make world-class wine. Would you be interested in covering how diverse ownership is changing California wine? Again, let me go back to the formula. So his specific hook is that you don't need generational wealth. That's a hook. Like, his unique angle is that he is one of 12 Asian American winery owners, and that you don't need generational wealth. And the story pitch is how diverse ownership is changing California wine. Again, that specific angle that fits their beat is the last thing that we're pitching them, which is how diverse ownership is changing California wine. So again, just beware, keep it simple. A lot of times, like as I mentioned, people try to pitch too much detail in the first pitch. Oh, we did this, our wine is so great, and this is how we make it, and we won these awards, and these are my credentials. They're not going to care about that. This is a journalist with a job on a deadline. They want to know, what is the story? How does it fit? Why is it relevant, and what makes it unique? So, two caveats here that I really want to make sure that you guys know. First of all, avoid mass emails. Like, I know that there's a formula here, but you really want to tailor that formula to each reporter. Like, maybe one reporter covers sustainability and the other one covers diversity. So you don't want to just write out that same, hi, we're into sustainability and I'm this, that, and the other, and I'm in and send it off to everybody, because journalists can tell when it's not custom. It would be just like if one of your friends sent you a mass email to, about, something that they were doing, and it was, not even something that you're interested in. You would know, like, okay, this is just a mass email. But the thing is that a journalist won't respond. And if you do that often enough, they're going to stop listening to you. They're going to stop paying attention to you. Now, duplicate pitches. I really want to emphasize this. This is a big, 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 big no-no. So let's say that there are two writers, two reporters that cover sustainability, and you have a great angle. You pitch one at a time. Do not pitch them the same story, because what will happen is if one of the reporters is interested in it and the other one decides to write about it, and the second reporter scoops the first one after they've interviewed you and done all of this work, they're going to be really upset. And they're probably never going to want to work with you again. And this is how it works, because there are so many people who are dying to get press. A reporter is not going to have to work with somebody that they don't trust. So please, if you remember nothing about pitching, don't duplicate these pitches. Please make sure to only send one at a time. And I'm going to address that a little bit later on how to talk to reporters about wanting to pitch the same story to somebody else. So, okay. So the fourth thing that we're covering is to create and follow a simple PR calendar. Now, ideally, what we want to do is something that only takes you 2 to 3 hours a week, because you guys are busy business people. I realize this. You are not PR people, so you want to keep this manageable. So, why do most winery owners give up on PR? It's because they treat PR as a one-time effort. PR needs to be ongoing. Just like news publications are always printing new stories and new news, you have to keep pitching new stories and new news. The reason that it becomes so overwhelming is when you don't have a system. You start scrambling. Oh no, I haven't pitched. I've got to go find something to pitch. And if you start following a system and you set aside time and you know that you're going to be working on this a couple of hours a week, it feels less overwhelming. It feels actually like you're getting some traction. You're going to start building on your efforts. So the system, if you want results, you have to follow a system. You can't be haphazard about this. Not when you have this many other things to do running your wine brand. So the system that I like to go through is week 1, you want to start researching and building your media list. And again, you want to use that 4-step process that I talked about earlier. So you want to identify 10 to 15 journalists and outlets using that 4-step process. You're not going to be able to get anywhere if you don't know who to pitch. So you start doing that research, spend about an hour, maybe 2. Week 2 is when you're going to start crafting personalized pitches and sending them out. So as you're going to be going in week 1, when you are building out that list and you start getting ideas of what they like, what each reporter likes to cover, that's when you can start thinking, okay, I'm going to start letting my mind think of interesting pitches when I'm out having dinner, or I'm out walking my dog, or at the gym, or, taking a walk, or driving to an appointment. Then you can start letting your brain work on the personalized pitches, getting ideas, getting creative. You just have to make sure that you know what it is you're aiming for. So week 2 is when you start putting those pitches together and actually sending them out. And again, remember, no mass emails and no duplicate pitching. Okay, week 3, after you've sent out several pitches, you want to follow up and engage. So this means that, remember, we're starting to follow journalists on social media, and we're starting to get alerts when they have stories that are concerning wine brands like yours. my recommendation is you follow up with one email only. So we don't want to keep badgering them and say, are you going to write about it? Are you going to write about it? Are you going to write about it? Do you want to interview me? What should I do? Are you going to call me? Can we talk? Can we talk? Okay. We don't want to do that. Just one email. And what you can do, and this is what I was talking about a couple minutes ago, that if you have several different writers who write about the same topic, instead of double pitching them, pitch it to the one that you want most or the one that's most likely. I mean, there's different strategies, but you want to choose a reporter that you want to pitch that to. If you do not hear from them, which happens a lot when the first time that you contact them, you can very nicely send them a courtesy email and say, hey, I was just checking in. I had sent you a pitch on such and such, and then you repeat the pitch. Do you have any interest would you have any interest in writing a story like this? I'm happy to speak with you. If not, I understand, but I would like to pitch this to another reporter. If you're not interested in it, if I do not hear back from you by such and such a date, and I would give them some time. I wouldn't say that if I don't hear back from you by the end of the day. I mean, unless it's an emergency. Give them a little time and say, if I don't hear back from you by the end of the week, on Monday, I will be pitching this to other journalists. But give them the courtesy. This is the professional thing to do. This is what professional public relations executives do, is that they treat them with respect. They treat reporters with respect and say, hey, listen, it's all good if you don't want to write about this. We get it. But just so you know, heads up, I'm going to be pitching this elsewhere unless you let me know. And then again, engage with journalists on social media. Just like I told you about my reporter friend who likes dogs. It's never hurts to get friendly with reporters. So in the fourth week, what you want to do is start pitching, getting your pitches together for seasonal or timely angles. And so what you want to do is update now you have your existing story angles. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. So you have your topics that you like to talk about, your unique, your founder story, your unique aspects of what of your identity, of your wine identity. Now you can update your story angles to coincide with that. So, and then you can also, the second part of this is that if you have certain events coming up, you also want to be able to cover those and start planning for how you're going to talk about the things that are happening that are seasonal at your winery. So what I really want to stress here is that consistency is key. It's repetition and consistency. This is going to keep you consistent without taking over your life when you follow a system. And remember, you're building relationships. Yes, you want to get coverage. Of course you do. And that's what we want. And that's our goal. But you want to build on that. This is something that if you put in the time and you're consistent with it, it's going to pay off in the long run. So maybe in the first month, you have 0 to 1 response. Okay. But in months 3 and 4, you're starting to see consistent coverage. So at this point, what you want to do at the end of these 4 weeks is that you want to put this on rinse and repeat. So you want to go through your week 1, 2, 3, and 4 activities. You want to keep researching for new reporters. You want to keep following them, keep interacting with them, keep identifying the stories of wineries that are like yours. That, remember, we want reporters that are covering wineries like yours. You want to keep pitching. You want to keep following up respectfully, not doubling down. We don't want to double down, and we don't want to mass pitch either. And again, keep engaging. So now this, I didn't talk about this, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an extra thing here. So let's say you get a yes, this is what we're going for, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, yay, they want to talk to me. Uh-oh, now what? Okay, so big mistake, beware. A lot of first-time interviewees, a lot of business people, the first time that they get a reporter who says, yes, I want to talk to you, they just think, well, I know my business, I know my winery, I'll just talk about it, I'll just wing it. Yeah, the big mistake. Don't do that. Because the result is You end up rambling, you miss the key points. And okay, I've seen this happen where the article doesn't capture what makes you special, or worse, they don't include you. So when somebody takes over the interview and doesn't give the reporter what they are looking to get. So the reporter has an idea for this story, but if you're not focused and you just kind of go on and start talking about the usual stuff about your wine brand or your winery, and you don't give the reporter the answers to the questions that they need, I've seen it happen. I've seen people get cut out of the articles where they just say, okay, well, I'm sorry, I interviewed that person, but they didn't give me what they want. So here you go through the trouble of you pitching it so great and all of this, and you talk to the reporter and you don't make it into the final article. This is why you need to prepare. So how to prepare for the interview? You've got to know your strengths. What does this mean? It means put together 3 to 5 talking points. Now, those are sound bites that you would want the journalist to quote. They're short, memorable, okay? So you also want to know your origin story, or this is your emotional hook. So why did you start this winery? What drives you? You also want to anticipate their questions. So like, what makes your winery different? What's your process? Why should their readers care about your wine brand? Make sure to rehearse your answers too. I know that kind of seems kind of goofy to some people, but take the time, whether you're driving when you're by yourself, or if you take public transport. I mean, God, probably nobody takes public transport, but I do. But when you're by yourself or you're in the shower, make sure to rehearse your answers so that you know what points to hit. You want to make sure that you have this down. So you also want to make it easy, okay? This is what you want to send journalists, all right? So you want to send them something ahead of time when they say that, hey, I'd love to interview you. You say fantastic, and you start scheduling a time. And then you can say to them, I tell you what, I will send you some high resolution photos. You want to send them 3 to 5 professional images. If you have more, that's great. You might want to put them on a folder on an accessible drive. If it's too big of a file to email, you might want to make sure that they're print quality as well. So that means at least 300 DPI. One of the other tools of the PR trade is a 1-page fact sheet. Now, this is not something that you would necessarily hand out to people like consumers, but this is something that a journalist will want to know. This is going to be all of your winery's vital information on 1 page. So it's going to have your name, your title, your winery's name, the location, the year it was founded, and then your story or your winery story in 1 to 2 sentences. You want to make sure to say what's unique. And again, not that whole thing of I was abducted by aliens one time, but just the thing of I left corporate after 20 years to start a winery, or I'm the first person in my family to drink wine and I started a winery. So that is something that makes you unique. This is, you want a list of any awards and accolades if you have them, and then your contact info. What you don't want to do is throw this all into a big, gigantic paragraph with a ton of words. You want this to be scannable. Now, journalists are very busy. The last thing that they want to do is have to read a novel in order to get the pertinent information. Also, and this is something that is going to be unique to each journalist, you want to give them 2 to 3 unique pull quotes that they can use in the article. So this is just something that you can say that, and again, these are sound bites, and you want them to be short. So for example, you would say something like, well, it's my goal to change the way that Napa Valley views sustainability, or just something short that emphasizes whatever it is that you want to talk about. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be the whole gist of your interview. It's just something that's going to give them some ideas and direction, and then they'll be able to pull that quote and use that if they need to on a caption of a photo or in a pull quote on the And by the way, pull quotes are when in print you have the quote that's in a bigger font that everybody can see right away, if they want to do a pull quote for the article. So, and then one other thing to do after you get that interview and you get that article written, you want to leverage your coverage. Okay, now this is like the money spot here. Okay, so you want to maximize your efforts. So a lot of people, when they get coverage, a lot of business people, they'll just leave it at that. Maybe they'll post about it once. No, this is where you really want to stretch that as far as it can go. So you want to email your list immediately and say, "Hey, we were just featured in, whatever, whether it's your local regional newspaper or whether it's the New York Times or whether it's a Time magazine or whatever it is. That hey, we were just," and then link to the article, and then you could also maybe offer incentives to people who mention the article, or you can do all sorts of promotions around this. Also, post it everywhere. So you want to post this multiple times. Again, like I said, the big mistake I see is that people will post one time and that is it. So you want to post 3 to 5 times over the month and use different angles. So here's what the LA Times said about our founders story, or, wow, we're so honored to be recognized for our sustainable practices, or, wow, this quote really made me tear up. And again, tag that journalist and tag the publication. You want to showcase it, put it on your homepage, add it to your email signature. You can print it and frame it and put it in your tasting room. This is press cred for you. You got to make sure you maximize it. You can also use it in future pitches. Now, again, you have press street cred. Hey, I was recently featured in the local Sonoma newspaper, and I'd love to share my story with your readers too. And then one other way is that you can create urgency, which is, wow, we've been getting calls all week since that LA Times story ran. Our tasting room is filling up super fast. Okay, book your visit now. So, okay, let's recap really quickly what we've gone through. So we went through the 4 steps that PR companies use to get the basic steps that they use to get press coverage for wineries like yours. But we've also covered pitches to avoid, the non-obvious types of publications and writers to target, the common mistakes that can derail your coverage, what to send journalists ahead of time, how to maximize your coverage, what to do once you get to your interview. We've covered that, how to prepare, how to maximize your coverage, and a lot of other things. So here's the thing. I wish I had more time. There's so much more. And I know that I'm talking really fast right now, but to cover all of the nuances. But what I want to make sure that you don't do is don't make the mistake of thinking that like, oh, now I have all I need. I'm going to go ahead. I can go ahead and get started. And anything I don't know, I can just find online. Just be very, very careful about that, because, you don't know who you're learning from, and you don't know whether or not they know what they're talking about. So if you can just bear with me for 1 second, let me just take you quickly on just what can be next for you. Okay. So if you will, I know this is going to sound a little weird for you, but if you want to just close your eyes for a second, I know that sounds a little cheesy, but if you could just close your eyes, there's nothing to see on this screen. I just want you to imagine 3 weeks from now. Okay. You've identified and made a list of journalists who write about wineries like yours. You've uncovered some interesting angles about your winery that you would never even thought of before. And you've even started reaching out to those reporters, and you're feeling really hopeful. Now, I want you to imagine just 3 months from now, you've gotten responses from some of those journalists, and maybe you've even gotten some coverage, and you've established rapport with a few more. And you're no longer scared to reach out with stories. And you realize that you actually do have stories that journalists and new customers are interested in. And why? It's because you've been working on this consistently. And now that story muscle is getting strong. So you're relieved, right? And hopeful that you have a new way to reach new customers outside of that crowded social media space. And now you see not only that PR works, you are working in it. You're working it. And now you know you had it in you all along. So maybe you're thinking you haven't been this excited about growing your business in a long time. Okay. Now I want you to imagine 12 months from now. Not only have you established a consistent PR schedule, you've gotten multiple press mentions and the new customers and the sales from existing customers that come along with them. And in doing this, you further solidified your business and you are officially in the PR game and other people have started to notice. You created a system that brings the visibility of the customers and the sales that you've always dreamt that your winery could have. Now, you wonder, how did you get here? Right? You didn't know how to do this. How did you get here? It's because you realized that a year ago, you made the decision to commit to it. You bet on yourself instead of listening to the doubts in your head. So now the only question is, are you committed to achieving this for your business? Or are you ready to leave behind the person who spends a lot of time thinking and worrying about this, but who doesn't use a strategy to execute it? Because if you are, the only thing that's missing now is the how, the strategies and the guidance to get you there. All you need now are the weekly steps to get started so that you can get your winery in the press and start getting the customers and the sales that come with the visibility. So all you need to do now is bet on yourself. So if you haven't already, just go ahead and open your eyes. And if you're committed to creating this future right now, then I'd love to share your next steps with you. So do you see what will happen when you have an experienced guide and the clear guidance to help you with each step so that you can find the open opportunities and create consistent press coverage and gain new customers and sell more bottles and grow your visibility in the market and in the industry? Can you see when you have somebody who can guide you, how that can all come together? Well, if you would like for me to walk alongside you and guide you in this process and avoid all of the time-consuming, frustrating pitfalls that wine brand founders get when they're trying to get press for the first time, then you can drop a yes in the comments. But I would like to invite you to join me in my new wine PR advisory. Okay, so what is the wine PR advisory? The Wine PR Advisory is a small group. It's actually the only small group PR coaching program exclusively for small wine brands. Each week, you'll join your small winery peers to learn exactly how to do the same things that those expensive PR professionals do for wine brands. So you can do it yourself effectively and efficiently. You can get press coverage that brings new customers and new sales and avoid that $multi-thousand monthly price tag. Now, again, I'm not sure why you showed up here. So, maybe we talked about a few possibilities. Like maybe you're curious because you see other people in wineries in the press and you're wondering like, wow, maybe I can do the same. Can I do the same thing? Maybe you're motivated and you know that there's a way to get press and you're like, that's right. I'm motivated and I am ready to get started. Maybe you're frustrated, but determined. Maybe you've pitched the press and haven't gotten anywhere. You know it's possible. And now you're determined to crack that code. Well, I get it because I started from scratch too. I once entered PR with no experience, no knowledge, no context. I don't have access to exclusive technology or experts or resources. I just have a proven roadmap that I follow every time. And if I can do this, so can you. So can you. So I know you want to skip the mistakes. I know you want to skip the burnout, the disappointment, the spinning your wheels. I know you want to skip that trial and error. The PR advisory, the wine PR advisory is the closest thing that you'll get to a dedicated PR consultant. You'll have live small group coaching. The PR program that you will create is going to be specifically for you and your winery. You'll follow a set strategy that the pros actually use to get your wine brand press coverage. Each month, you'll have 3 live 1-hour coaching lessons on a key PR action. That's 1 per week for the first 3 weeks of the month. And then you'll have specific assignments to complete during the week. You'll also have 3 live 1-hour Q&A sessions following those group coaching sessions so you can get personalized advice and instruction on your project and other PR activities. And again, that's 1 per week for the first 3 weeks of the month. Okay, so I have to tell you, I've been in the PR game for a long time. You will not find this anywhere else. And I'll tell you why. Because PR professionals do not want to teach business owners how to do this themselves. They want to charge you $5,000 or $10,000 a month to do it for you. I know, like I've been in this for a long time. So you can't find this anywhere else. If you could, it would probably cost you, if you're billing out on an hourly basis, at least $2,000 a month. Okay, so you're probably wondering, okay, Jeri, so what does this cost? So I'm launching this right now to the public for $489 a month. But because you're diversity wine members, the price goes down to $389 a month. But if you decide that you are ready right now and you say, I'm ready to go, I want to do this, I'm committing, you will get a fast stack bonus for a founding member at $329 a month. Now, how do you do that? You can just go to jeriyoshida.com/yes. And I'm going to drop, if you want to go straight to my Stripe link, I'm going to drop that also in chat. Now, there you go. So it is a 2-month minimum, but after that, you're free to cancel at any time. And that first 2 months will give us plenty of time to get our foundation straight and start going. So once you click that link, you'll be taken to a page that has a button that says sign me up. And when you click on that, you will be taken to, and this is the Stripe link that I put into chat. And once you sign up, boom, you'll get a welcome email and you'll be taken to this page, and it'll give you the details of our first live coaching call, which is on the first Wednesday of March. And again, it happens once a week for the first 3 weeks of the month. And by the way, I designed it that way because as a business owner, I get that you're doing a zillion things. And I find that when I have a project coming at me every single week and it never stops, it makes me a little bit insane. So I designed that so that you could have that 4th week off to catch up on any projects that you may not have done over the first 3 weeks. So again, just to recap, it's the closest thing that you have to a dedicated PR consultant. 3 live 1-hour group coaching sessions, 3 live personalized Q&A sessions where you can ask anything you want. You can say, hey, look, I am having trouble finding my unique selling point. I don't know how to do this. So it's designed to be very, very personal. And again, it's going to be specific to you and your wine brand. So again, regular price at $489. Diversity wine members get $100 off from that. And if you join before the end of this webinar, you'll get that additional $60 off per month, that $329 per month for the rest of the time that you are a member, unless of course you cancel. But as long as you were a continuous member, that price will never go up again, no matter how much we raise it. You will never ever have a different price. So just think about it. If all this coaching program did for you was to put you on a schedule so you consistently pitched your winery to the press over and over, month after month, as part of your regular business activities, wouldn't that be worth it? Well, you will get that and so much more. Okay, so you may be thinking, but wait, what if what if I don't know how to say what makes my me and my winery so unique? Like I don't even know how to start. What if I don't know how to say that? Well, you'd be surprised how many people come with that exact issue. I've been working with professionals for decades. For over 20 years, I've worked with some very, very accomplished, very smart people who could not tell you how to describe what makes them so unique and what their unique proposition is to talk to a reporter and what they're great at discussing. So you could bring that to me in the live Q&A and we will go over it and I will ask you questions and we can dig in together to get to the bottom of what your unique journalist, what your unique interest is that a journalist would want to write about. So what if I miss a call and I can't make it some days? No problem. Our calls and Q&A sessions are recorded so you can watch them later. What if I'm really busy and I don't have time to do every PR project? Well, geez, I get that as a PR professional myself. My gosh, I get that's a story of my life. Okay, that's why I did 3 weeks on, 1 week off, and you were under no obligation to do every project. In fact, the beauty of this is that you can say, wow, I pitched sustainability to this publication and it did so well. Now I'm going to not do this other project. I'm going to double down on this sustainability thing and I'm going to start using my skills to mine for other journalists and start, talking about how can I tweak the sustainability angle and that sort of thing. So it's really designed for you to create a PR program that is going to fit exactly for you based on your strengths, your winery's strengths, and what is going to work for you. So this is not a one size fits all by any stretch, which is why it's live coaching instead of an online course that you just get and you listen to one person. It's going to be tailored. I want to be able to address every question and every nuance that you guys are encountering. So again, I'm just going to leave this screen up, but I want to get into any questions that you guys have about the steps on how to start getting press. So 1 second. Let me just go ahead and put my face back up on this screen. Okay, I think that you guys can see me. Okay, cool. So does anybody have any questions on how to, on any of the topics that we covered on how to pitch reporters? Let's see. Here we go. Okay. No questions? I hate to have you guys leave and not and have any questions. So, okay. Let's see what we've got here. Oh. How do I find journalists? Okay, hey Bob. So, the best thing to do is start looking for stories. So I would start with going on your search engine or Google. And let's start with that. Let's just start with Google first. So you want to go on Google and just whatever your angle is. Let's say that I wanted to know who's writing about women winery owners in Oregon. That's what I would Google, women winery owners in Oregon. And then I would click on the news function of Google and then start looking at the stories. Once you find the stories, find the writers and the publications, and then start doing the research from there. Once you find that writer, Google that writer, that male or female, the man or the woman that's writing this, and start looking at what other types of stories and see if that's something that they are usually covering. Sophia, thank you. You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So that's what I would say is you want to start there. One of the other things you can do is, my goodness, use AI. So if you use ChatGPT, I would say, what writers have covered stories about this type of winery, and just you want to talk about what your unique angle is. And so you would say, how are there any writers who write about natural wines in Willamette, or in Oregon? Thanks, Nicole. You're so welcome. I'm glad that you guys are here. Thanks, Nicole Pope. So that's that's you want to use AI as well to start doing that. You should be able to come up with a list of, my gosh, a dozen or two that you can start looking into and saying, of these 10 or 12 writers that I found online, let me do my own research and say, is this something that are they writing about things that I would be able to talk about? Is there a common denominator that I am part of? So, all right, 1 second. So I don't know, Bob, did that answer your question? Okay. Do you recommend journalists only in Oregon, or would you outside? Okay. So, okay, great, Bob. So in terms of a journalist only in Oregon, okay, now I like to do both. So obviously what you want to do is look for the areas that your target customer is going to be coming from. So if you want to draw from your local area. So yes, if you want to, if you're an Oregon winery, you want to draw from Oregon, and you want to look for journalists who write for the Oregon publications. But that is not to say that there are other areas, other locations. So I would say maybe different regions outside of Oregon. So maybe in Northern California or in Southern Washington, or different parts that might draw into Oregon as well. So you want to do that. Oh, hey, Vivian. Thank you. Very informative webinar, Jeri. Thank you. It's so nice to have you here. And Sammy. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're on your way. Oh my gosh, I remember you, Sammy. Yes, you're in Germany. I'm in France, as you know. So yeah, you want to make sure that you concentrate on the area that you're going to draw from, but you can also look to get eyes on from potential customers who are outside of your area. Now, in terms of international and outside of the area, I would say that there are different reasons that you would do that. If you are strictly looking to start getting more customers in, if you are not selling international, I would say that that's probably not a high priority target. But that is not to say that there is not value in it. So there are different types of press, and I can get into this much later, but the bottom line is that that can start getting into slightly vanity press, where it looks really good to have it, but it may not necessarily contribute to you getting directly sales. However, if it does lend a strong affiliation to you, that, wow, this French publication covered our Oregon winery. Yeah, this is a big deal. That's something definitely that you would, again, want to use, maybe not necessarily to get visitors from reading that exact publication in France, but you would want to use that on social media, put it on your homepage, send it out to your mailing list. I would definitely leverage that for sure. Let's see. So yes. So I would say that, again, Sophia, what you want to do is, if you're looking for specifically for sales, to increase sales sooner rather than later, you want to focus on the areas that are going to bring you people, that are going to expose you to people who are going to buy your wine either in person or online. In terms of going outside of your area, that is probably not going to be, unless you sell internationally, that is probably not going to increase your sales, but it is not without value. I will say that. So that's going to be the differentiation right there. So let me know if I answered your question, Sophia. Um, yes, and Sammy, definitely, if you're still on the call, I'm so glad that you got started. It's so, it doesn't PR does not have to take a long time. Again, there's a reason that firms charge $5,000 to $10,000 a month, and it's because they have somebody essentially working hours and hours a day on your accounts. I mean, on your account to get you press. But that's not to say that working a few hours a week, as long as you do it consistently, that will not. That's not to say that that won't pay off. I mean, that is how you get it done. You can very much so get press, especially if you know how to angle toward the publications that are going to cover you. So, okay, great. All right. So, got Bob, Sophia, Vivian, Sammy, Nicole. Okay. I was just not able to else is here to. I hear you. This is the thing. The reason that I created this, Sammy, is because I know that as somebody who has had a PR firm for a long time, that it is hard to work with smaller companies because their budgets aren't very big. And I was racking my brain as to how it is that I could help more people. And for me, because I really love the diversity wines group of the membership, how I could help more people by without having to charge them so much. So this was just the natural, knowing that I could teach people how to do this. And there's to know the basics. It is definitely a learnable skill. This is why I did it, is because, outsourcing it can get so expensive. So yeah, let me know if you'd like to join the coaching program. So, but let's see, do we have any other questions? Questions. Okay. I hear you. I hear you. I know that it gets very busy to do it on your own social media. I know. This is the thing, as a small business owner, it gets what you really want to do. It can be so busy, but what you really want to do is just make sure that you are maximizing your efforts. It can be, you got to stay consistent, and you've got to know that you're doing the most productive activities when you're taking action. So, okay. Questions? Any other questions? Okay, let me see. Let me make sure that I've got everybody here so I can send you a copy of my slide deck. One sec. Just want to make sure I've got it. Sec. Just going to screenshot you guys here. Okay. So, all right. Well, if nobody has any other questions, I guess we can go ahead and get off the call. But again, thank you so much for the chance to chat with you about these. I love PR, and I love being able to share what I've learned. So, definitely keep in touch. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Last chance. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you. Oops, let me just stop sharing my screen here. Okay. So thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing and working with you guys soon. Bye, everybody.